Welcome back to the Making It podcast. Today I'm doing another Making It Moments. We've got a very special guest, Harrison, here. How are you, mate?
Yeah, I'm doing well. Got lots of uni work to do, lots of exams coming up, so I'm always in the library, which is just across there. But no, I can always make time for a podcast. I've always wanted to be on a podcast, so yeah.
Yeah, I met Harrison in the sauna, funny enough, at the start of this year. You're a fresher in it. This is your first year at the uni, obviously my second, and we were talking about your forensic, and
yeah,
it's nice to now be doing a podcast with him. I remember we were doing varsity at the uni, and he shouted across, "Get me on your podcast," and now he's here. But this is a bit of a different episode to kind of the ones we normally do, because normally we bring someone on and we talk about what their career or what they're trying to pursue. But today Harrison's coming on to talk about a bit of a different topic. So do you want to kind of introduce yourself and what you want to talk about today, mate?
So over the past, I want to say 12 months, it's been the worst. But over my whole life, I've struggled a lot with mental health, and I think it's so significant. It's so important to talk about. It does get thrown around, or everyone needs to look after each other. But what do you do to look after yourself? It's all right saying, "Oh, you'll be all right," or just "you'll be all right," or whatever you want to say. But how do you be all right? And over the last 12 months, I've struggled really badly. I've dropped really, really low, and I thought I need to not only help myself, but be vulnerable by helping other people. Because, not to blow my own trumpet or anything, but I'm known by a lot of people. I might not be everyone's friend, but a lot of people do know who I am. So if I'm vulnerable, they might think "Oh, he's come out and I would never expect it from him." So I can be vulnerable.
Yeah, I completely get what you're saying, and I think with mental health, and I think with our dark thoughts and our struggle, I don't know, something I found, and I don't know if you found it as well, is a lot of the time it almost feels like you're the only one going through it.
Yeah,
and I think there's also a lot of certain topics, and there's quite a lot of them. There's a lot of different things which people don't like to open up about, and like you say, that word vulnerable, because it's so vulnerable. So I think it's really nice to hear someone like that, kind of someone like you, being out there and being vulnerable, because it gives other people a platform too.
Yeah.
So I've seen Harrison on TikTok as well recently. He's been making these videos and he's been opening up on social media. So talk about that. Talk about how using social media these days is a great way to use what you were saying about being able to show to people or even people you don't know about being vulnerable.
Social media is the biggest platform possible to put something like that out in the world, because how much do you scroll on your phone a day?
I'm the kind of person who don't scroll too much, but at least a good half an hour probably. Yeah,
half an hour, an hour. Imagine the people that scroll there for 5 hours.
Yeah,
you know
exactly.
what I'm saying? They're going through so much. What do the people call it? Doom scrolling.
Doom scrolling, yeah.
Doom scrolling. But when you come across something like that, I can't tell you how many people I haven't spoke to in years. I'm talking since high school, and it's been 3 or 4 years since then that I've popped up and been like, "Oh my God, I've just seen you on my For You page. You're doing great. This is something that needs to be put out," because it does. Because like I said we were talking 2 minutes ago, the word does get put out there, but not enough. It doesn't. And it's one of them things that I always say. I was speaking to my granddad about it. I was like, it needs to be shoved down people's throat. It does, because you say about it and then you forget about it, and it's something that shouldn't be forgotten about. But regards to my TikTok, I thought,
go on, shout it out as well.
It's Adventures with Galley on TikTok. Give us a follow. I'm already above 1k. Get in.
Come on.
But no, I always said I sit down with my grandma and I were going on hikes, which we'll talk about later in the podcast. And she was like, why don't you just put it out there? If you're recording yourself anyway, you might as well put it out there. So I thought, what? Yeah, go on then. Why not? But I was always scared of what people think if I do it. At the start, I got a bit of banter off the boys. People were ripping me for it. But right now, everyone's like, it's normal. It's normal to see a video on TikTok about me. And I thought, if I post on TikTok and I make one person's day better, I've been successful. I've done something and helped another individual. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
It's nice to hear that it was your grandma that pushed you on too. Yeah. I think that's really nice, because it's almost like, even if, I don't know, let's say your views started to drop or people weren't giving as much engagement on it, it's like even that one person, that could be your grandma who sees the videos, man, and it could hit her. And I think obviously I've done a bit on social media lately as well, and obviously with the podcast and stuff, and you can kind of get a bit trapped in numbers, but you can kind of say to yourself,
100%.
and just like what you say, bro, it's like one person, man. If it makes an impact on one person's day, that's massive, because that's the main thing. In terms of, you said something at the beginning about mental health being quite a big thing that's kind of said, but not really how to deal with it.
Yeah.
And we talk about it sometimes on the pod. We talk about positive distractions, so say maybe like listening to music or journaling, which I know you do a bit. What are things that you've used to kind of help you through the times where you have been struggling or those dark thoughts are creeping in?
So actually, if you do check out my TikTok, I did make a video on this when I was I did a hike in Buttermere. I go out on self walks. I go walking by myself. I find it so peaceful. I don't take headphones. I'm just there in the moment, me and myself, with the leaves blowing, the river. You can hear the water. I just find it so peaceful, and that's my niche. And what I said in the video was, if you want to do something in life, do it. Just do it. Don't care what other people have to say about it. Just do it.
I think I remember you were filming. You were like, "Oh, people are walking past,"
Yeah.
but like I don't mind. Like
if people are he's not going to remember me holding that phone in 2 minutes time. I'm telling you, he's not. And quite frankly, he's not going to care either.
Yeah,
you know
I
what I mean?
completely agree. Yeah.
If you want to do something, do it, because the only thing that you're doing by not doing it is holding yourself back. That is literally the only thing. No one else cares.
So what would you say to someone who does feel like they can't take that jump?
Honestly, it's hard to develop the mindset of not caring about what other people think, but as soon as you do it once, right, it'll be like you'll get a buzz, and it's like, ooh, I want to do that again, and then it'll naturally flow. And then, like, I was speaking to one of my cousins that I don't see that often when I was back home a few days ago. He was like, I can see the difference already in how you post TikTok. Right at the start, it were like stands all stiff and ooh, don't know what to say, but now you just relax into your body, and the camera's like a person, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I think that with that not caring, and you say like the first time doing it, you get that buzz. Would you agree when I say it's like small steps?
100%.
So the first one, maybe the smallest step, you might just take like a little selfie out when you're on a walk, and then the next thing is you do like a 10-second video. It's like building it up. Did you find you had to build it up a bit?
No, because I like to jump in the deep end.
You jump straight in. Yeah,
I like to jump in the deep end. But that is definitely something that someone could do. Progressive little steps. Yeah, maybe it might be taking a selfie in the middle of town when people are around. That's hard enough in itself, because you've got your phone in the air, everyone's looking at you, but really, are everyone looking at you? Or have they just glanced at you and then walked past? Like, everyone seems to think, oh, everyone's looking at me, but maybe what if they actually are thinking in their head, you know what, fair play for him doing that. But our brains are wired to think, oh my God, he's looking at me, he thinks I'm stupid. But you never know what that person might be thinking.
Yeah, it's that fear of judgment, and I think that is also another thing which stops people from wanting to open up, because they're worried about getting judged. And I want to speak to you about sort of environments. And I think there are certain environments that we can find ourselves in where we feel more judged. Maybe we're around people we don't know. Maybe we're in like I don't want to go with the cliche, but maybe like a sporting group, and it's very like manly, and it's like no one really says anything. We all take the mick out of each other. For me, sometimes I struggle with that sort of environment, because it's like, I love an environment where everyone can be open and we can all chat, but sometimes there are people in life that do judge. So let's have a bit of a discussion about it. You know, in those sort of environments, you know, you're probably never going to be able to remove those environments.
Never.
So what would you say with dealing with those environments? Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
I
what would you do in that
from.
sort of setting?
Put yourself around people who have similar interests than you, and if you open up to someone and you make yourself vulnerable, and they make you feel threatened by that person doesn't belong in your life. And that's simple. Like, it all starts with, you need to open up to the person you feel most comfortable with. Me growing up, I'll talk about it later on the pod, but it was my mum. That's someone I've done forever. And it got to the point where, like, I was very aware with my emotions. I would never show emotion, ever, unless it were in front of my mum. The only time I'd ever like show emotion was like on a football pitch. I'm so reserved as a person. Like, you'd never see me get angry or get upset. On a football pitch, I would, because I've just got that kind of adrenaline. I've just got that adrenaline. But other than that, it would only be my mum. And I've got to a point now where if we were talking about something upsetting, I would not even be bothered about crying in front of the camera. Like, and I'm so comfortable in my own emotions now, and I think that's what every person needs to be like, because if you cry in front of someone, yeah, you might feel embarrassed, but the other person's probably going to want to know why you're crying and to make you feel better, because that's just human nature. And if they don't, then again, that person doesn't belong in your life.
I think it's a good awareness to have, like, if someone is judging you, then they've probably got something going on themselves.
Yes.
Because we all do, and something sometimes I'd love to speak to you about it. I remember when I was a little bit younger, and I was speaking to my mum, funny enough, about stuff. It almost felt like when I felt upset, I almost sometimes masked it a little bit, because it was like, well, someone's got it way worse. Like, I'm still under a roof, I've got a good like life going, but someone doesn't. And sometimes I struggled a little bit, and it wasn't deep stuff, but even just like the basics of being sad. And I always said to myself, well, someone else is like, how should I feel sad when I'm doing all right? Like, what would you say about that? Because my mum said back to me, she said, well, your worst is your worst.
Mm-hmm.
So what would you say about that sort of topic?
Well, there's a quote that I used to live by. I don't live by it anymore, because everyone's problems to them is, like you say, their worst problems. Your problems to you right now feel like the worst in the world, and that's your problems. I used to live by a quote that it was, if everyone put their problems in a pile in the world, you would take your problems back like that. And as much as you deep that quote, you probably would, because there's people out there that probably will not make it out of hospital or are terminally ill and stuff like that. But your problems to you probably mean the same as their problems to them. As harsh as that to say, it is, because they don't know how you feel genuinely, and you don't know how they feel genuinely. That person might be terminally ill and know that they're going to pass away, but they might be so mentally clear and so positively happy that it's unreal. But just because you've got that extra life doesn't mean that you have to be positively happy and have that clear mind.
Basically saying it's okay to be upset. Like,
yeah, 100%. It's okay to not be okay, and that's a phrase, again, needs to be so much pushed out there, because people think, oh, like, we'll talk about it as we prepared the mask. I wore that, like you said, all my life, and only recently in the last 12 months I've theoretically took that off and become myself and being more authentic, if you want to say.
Was there anything which pushed you to take that mask off?
Probably the whole being accountable, posting on TikTok and stuff like that, and just being me, because I've always wanted to be me and be happy, but what's being happy? Can you define happiness?
I think it's different for everyone.
Exactly, you know what I mean? It's so, what's the word I'm looking for? Subjective to everyone, you know what I mean?
So when it comes to being you, what is being you to you, Harrison?
Being able to walk in a room or any environmental space and just feel myself. Not have to force anything, just be me. Like on a night out, when I like to have a drink, I'm the type of person that will go on the dance floor and I will pull you in and we'll dance. I will make you embarrassed.
I love that, man.
I am that person. I will make you embarrassed. I'll dance in front of people and stuff like that. But old me probably just not done that, because I don't want to embarrass myself or make myself a fool. But I'm in that process of thinking now that I'll do what I want to do. If it makes me smile and makes other people smile, then it's funny, innit? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think being yourself is such a big thing, bro, and I always try to push it. And I think for anyone listening right now, it is the case of, like Harrison's saying, it's like you can walk, you can go anywhere. It's such a beautiful thing, because you can go into any environment, like we spoke about environments earlier, even judgment environments, and it's like you feel okay, because it's like, I feel like you can never regret being yourself.
Exactly.
It's such a massive thing. But I think a big thing with being yourself is understanding that everyone else's being themselves is different to yours. So comparison is a big thing. I could be comparing myself to you, and I could be thinking, why don't I do life like that? Or you could be thinking, why don't I do life like Dan? And I think it's such an important thing to make sure that you understand that yourself is yourself for a reason, and other people are different. But have you ever struggled with comparison at all? Yeah,
a lot of the time I do, and I was actually thinking about this before we started the pod. I was going to mention it. Everyone, if the followers might not know, but I think you will. You know who Theo Baker is on YouTube?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, of course. Everyone knows who Theo Baker is. But I like to watch him because I like the mentality that he has. And everyone wants a six-pack abs. Everyone wants to look chiseled. I do, but I don't want to go through that process of having to eat chicken and rice and, you know, draining myself out and making myself just mentally drained and ill. So I've always said, and he says it as well, that's why I like to have his mind process about it. As long as you're fit and you exercise and you keep your body healthy, eat what you want, drink what you want, do what you want. That's what I think, because I'm happy. I'm exercising, that makes me happy. I'm eating what I want, that makes me happy. And I'm socialising with people and having a drink when I want, that makes me happy. So why would I get rid of them 3 things when they all lead to happiness? So that's one thing I've took away from him. I love watching his podcast, Waffling.
I like waffling, bro. Joe
really
Weller's so
waffling.
funny, man.
I love watching that. And watching them just like, oh, I really want to get on with myself. So thanks for bringing me on this one.
Yeah, man, it's nice to have you here, Brian. Everything you've been saying is lovely. You mentioned earlier about you wanted to talk about your walking and your hiking. What kind of inspired you to do that? Is there anything from your childhood, or is it just something you've done recently? Like, what's got you into that?
Actually, it's a funny story from the boys back home. So I travelled back from Newcastle back to Leeds. That's where I'm from. For December for Christmas period, and the boys were going on a hike to Ingleborough. That's a mountain in the Yorkshire Dales, I believe it is. And I was like, oh, why don't you come along? I was like, it's just snowed like all night.
What time of the year was this?
It was January period, so it was like we got a lot of snow. I'm talking a lot of snow. I'm thinking, what if we get stuck up there? I'm not going up there. And it was like, just come, stop being a wimp. I was like, all right, fair, I'll come. So I went on the walk, and we got to the top, and there's a few photos that I got on my phone from the walk, and I'm thinking that's the best I felt the whole Christmas period. Even with presents and spending time with family, I was just so much going on in my head that just a chat with I had a chat with one of my friends. I'm not gonna go too much into the details of the chat and who it was with, but we had a proper personal deep chat about it. And I think that's what the turning point. That's what I say the turning point was due to my walks. Like, we got to the top and the scenery and it was just peaceful. I'm thinking to myself, I've felt not like this in a long while. I'm gonna make this a thing. And then obviously I went on more walks, and then I spoke to my grandma, and she was like, well, you're taking photos and videos, why don't you just show people you're going? And I was like, you know what, yeah, that's a great idea, I'm gonna do it. And then we are here today.
What are your top 3 favourite walks you've done so far?
So far, well, due to uni work and stuff like that, I mean, I haven't been going on in the last month, but I would definitely say for the Northeast lovers, Cragside. I love that place. It's just peaceful. It's not a mountain, it's just a nice trail walk. If you want to venture off a little bit further, Buttermere in the Lake District.
When I saw that video,
lovely.
bro, that looks so nice, man.
You can do the circle around Buttermere, lovely. There's Highland cows there that you can go see. You can literally get to as close as me and Dan are sat next to each other to them, and they won't do anything. And then probably third, I'd say Cat Bells, just because when you get to the peak of Cat Bells, the view is.
Where's Cat Bells?
Again in the Lake District.
Okay,
yeah. It's unbelievable. You can see all across the lake, and the houses across the other side and stuff, and it makes me smile thinking about it.
So peaceful, man, isn't it?
Peaceful.
I love a good walk. We've gone camping quite a few years now with my family, and it's just such a nice place to go. One of my favourite places is a place called Kettlewell, and we go into this campsite which is just surrounded by these valleys, and it's just that idea of like nothing's really going on too much. It's like in our life everything's so busy, yeah, and then when you go out there, it's like, wow, I can just relax. And you said you want to mention your mum a bit later on about opening up to your mum, and how important has your mum been in your life, brother?
Oh, so important. Like, without her, I don't know where I'd be, to be fair. She was the pinnacle starting point to all of this. She always has been. But yeah, growing up, she'd be the only person I could talk to, because she was the only person I could trust. If you want to say that's trust issues, maybe. Like, me and my dad have a very close bond. We are very like that, but we never sat down and really had that type of chat. That's not his fault, not my fault. Like, we probably could have had that chat growing up, but I just felt close with my mum. I felt like I can open up to a female better than I can open up to a male. And to be fair, nowadays that's changed. I can open up to anyone, but only up until probably 12 months ago it was like that as well, because my mum was the starting pinnacle, and then my ex-girlfriend was the second pinnacle moment. Like, we ended on not great terms, so I'm not going to much of as a relationship, but after her I fell even deeper. But whilst I was with her, she was the one that brought me out of it, kind of thing. So coming out of it was really worse, so I had to build myself back up. So I say now, 12, 18 months later after we've split up, that unless I went through that, I wouldn't have had the chance to go deeper, to come back up and rise. So I actually do thank her for breaking up with me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You know what I mean?
I
Like,
hear what you're saying,
you know what I'm
yeah,
saying? So, but back to my mum, yeah. She's one of the most, one of the most important people. Not even the most important woman, most important people in my life. I couldn't have done it without her, to be fair. So
it's that support system, bro. It's massive. And for anyone who feels like they are struggling to open up about something they feel like, go to your family, go to your friends. I promise you, they do care about you. And that word care is a massive thing, bro. And I think we've all got to embody that, bro. You got to care about people because, like we mentioned before, like the hustle and bustle of life, we can all get caught up in it. But reach out to someone, you know, maybe someone you've not reached out to lately. Go and drop them a message because even if they're at their best, you're always struggling with something. There's always something. I'd
definitely say if you're struggling and you genuinely don't feel like there's a way out, your parents are your first point of call. Because they are you, as much as you say that people won't judge you, they will. Everyone judges everyone. It's just human nature to judge. Your parents are the only people that won't judge you on anything. Like Dan will do something and I'll probably judge him subconsciously for doing it. My mum probably wouldn't judge me for doing that, if you know what I mean. Your parents are the only people in the world that you could go to with anything and they will stand by your side. And you need them types of people in that moment because you need someone who is going to be sitting there and listen to what you have to say. And if you don't have a close relationship with your parents, maybe it might be your grandparents that you go to, or that one friend that you've known since you were 2 years old. There's going to be someone in that support system that you feel like you don't have, that you do. And there'll be someone that will sit there and, like, my prime example of being away from family, like the hardest part of coming to Newcastle is being away from family because I'm a really family orientated person. But I want to shout Elijah Berman out just because without him up in Newcastle, I don't know what I'd
Didn't
be
you
like.
already know him from home? He's saying he played football with you.
Yeah, we played football together and we moved up to here together and we live in the same flat. And the amount of times that he's just sat there and just listened, he hadn't even had to say anything. I'm just venting verbal diarrhea at him, and he's just sat there and listened. And I can't thank that enough because sometimes you just need that. You don't need a response. You just need to vent it all out. And that's exactly why I've brought the Black Book with me, because
tell them about the Black Book, bro.
That's what I do when I didn't have that support system with Lige. When I was back home and I didn't have that, I wrote down all my Harrison's Daily Journal, and I literally wrote for, when's the first page? 9th of September, and this time I stopped was 18th of February. So what's that, like 4 or 5 months of journaling?
Yeah.
Just every day. And I feel like that's something that if I could give any advice to someone, do it, because if you can't speak to someone, speak to the paper, because you're speaking to someone.
That could be part of your support system.
Yeah, exactly. So I'd say definitely write down, journal. Write down 5 things you're grateful for in life. This is my structure. 5 things what you're grateful for in life, because everyone has 5 things you're grateful for. Then write down what you did in the day. What did you do? Who did you see? And then always finish off with a passage to God. I'm a Catholic. I'm religious. So if you're not religious, then maybe don't do that at the end. But I always wrote a passage to God because I believe that He has my destiny and my faith. So wherever I end up, it's because of Him. Yeah.
Yeah, that's massive, man. How come you stopped in February?
Because I've started to feel better.
Okay.
Yeah, I started to feel better.
Would you go back to doing it when you do feel better? Because I once heard Matthew McConaughey say he noticed he wasn't journaling when he felt good. Mm-hmm. It was only when he felt bad. So maybe you could start to do it when you feel good as well. Do you know what I mean?
I would so be down for that idea. I would, but to me it felt like I only do it when I'm upset kind of thing. But I think it is positive probably to do it when you're not, because then it becomes a reliant on when you're upset. Whereas if you do it all the way throughout, it's not a reliant on being upset. So that's probably an idea I might take in.
But I think even if you've come out of, like, obviously with that it was like a daily routine and that's when you were struggling, I completely understand it. But sometimes I find with journaling, like, you don't want it to feel like a chore. Mm-hmm. So it could just be like, okay, I'm feeling good. You know what, I'm going to write some stuff down. I'm feeling low. I'm going to write some stuff down, because you don't want it to start feeling like a chore and then it almost feels like you're just doing it for the sake of it, because you want it to have a good purpose.
There's some days that I'd write 4 pages and there's some days I'd write 6 lines. Like, that's how it was, because if I didn't feel like I wanted to write and it felt like a chore, I'd do it, but I'd get the bare minimum done. And then there's some days that I'm like, oh, I can't wait to tell my book what I've done today.
That's good,
you know
though,
what I
man.
mean?
It's good.
You know what I mean? So I just write, I'd go. And that leads on to something else that I've been doing in the past few months, which is poetry. As nerdy as that sounds,
Mate, don't worry about it.
I fell in love with poetry recently. I just feel like writing words on a page. I'd write 5 pages worth of stuff, and then I'll put it all together and make it into a poem, rhyme and stuff like that. And I feel like getting feelings out on the page, it's just, I don't know, it puts me to peace. So.
And he puts them on TikTok as well, so go and listen to them, because I've heard them and they're really good. Would you like to share one with us today, Harrison?
I can share one.
My parents would be loving this because they're both English teachers.
I write a few mental health poems and then a few like relationship kind of poems, but that's not what we're talking about.
Pick which
today.
one feels good for you today, man.
I'll pick the one that's the most like they've got the most views on TikTok, so clearly the people not like that one the most. But it's called Men Don't Cry. Men don't cry. Sometimes we think it will all just get better if we said goodbye. Men don't cry because men are strong, and if you're weak you cry, but that's actually where you're wrong. It's a sign of bravery and strength within a man. Men don't cry. Man up, they say, as if masculinity was a muzzle, as if strength lied in silence, as if emotions actually made us weak. Men don't cry. It's better than bottling it up and living your life a lie. Men should cry. If you're a man who's hurting inside, cry. Do it ugly, do it loudly, do it unfiltered. Let the tears stream down your cheeks. Men should cry. So pick up the phone and check in on your mates. I'm not saying take them out on cute romantic dates, but tell them that they can cry, because I'd rather you use my shoulder as a place to rest your head and cry than it be a base to hold your coffin when I have to say my final goodbye.
That's powerful, brother.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that, man. That was lovely.
That one's on my TikTok as well, yeah.
That's beautiful, man. How does that make you feel when you write your poems?
Because it comes from a place of like, I know how that feels. So it does make me emotional and stuff. Some of the poems that I write, I'm crying in tears. You know what I mean? Because I know how it feels to feel like that, and it's like, I'll read another one out. Like the first one I ever wrote, and it was like a personalized one to me, and this was like my journey of life through the poem kind of thing. So it was quite like that's what sparked it off, if you know what I mean. This is in the journal book. That's the poem book. This is
wow.
Like,
what was it that made you do your first poem?
I just seen it on TikTok and I thought, you know what, that's like really, I want to do that. Because that's cool, and I want to do things that are cool. And it's called I Met My Younger Self. I don't know if you've heard any of them ones on TikTok. There's a lot of people that have their own versions on it, but it goes, I met my younger self today. He was 15 minutes late and I was sat there waiting for him to arrive. I met my younger self today. The first question he asked was, will this pain ever go away? I told him life sucks, but sometimes it's your biggest healer. The way he looked back at me, I knew he didn't believe me. I met my younger self today. He had bags under his eyes and he told me he'd stayed up playing the PlayStation with his mates until he just turned it all off and cried. He said, it really went well to go away. I said, yes. Oh no, sorry about that.
Sorry, man.
Will this pain ever go away? He said, yes, it will. But it's not going to be easy. Tomorrow or today. He smiled and I smiled too. With a quiver in my lip and a tear in my eye, I asked, does wearing that mask tire you out? Silence. No reply. Until he said, why are you crying? Are you upset? I replied, no. I'm just proud of you. He said, you avoided the question. I replied, I'm trying to. Are you? He replied, yes, I'm trying to. We both looked at each other, not knowing who to sympathise with or who to turn to. He asked me, but are you actually okay? I replied, I'm happy, instead of I'm fine. He looked confused at me like he didn't know what that meant, even though we had the exact same mind. I met my younger self today. I told him, keep being strong, you'll eventually thrive. Little did he know he'll look back and think he's happy to actually be alive. So that was a little one that I wrote right at the start. Like that's me in the poem.
So you put your twist on that.
Yeah, that's I'm meeting my younger self. So my younger self would be like, he didn't know the definition of happiness. It was always, are you alright? Yeah, I'm fine. Don't worry about me, I'm fine. Because I'm always the happiest person in the room. I'm always wanting to make other people happy. Because who's going to ask the happiest person in the room if they're alright? If they're always bouncing around and being smiley? Because they're like, that is the most stupid question. Why would you ask someone who looks so happy if they're alright? Because that's just like, well, yeah, I'm fine, I'm fine. Because I always wanted to put that mask on to make sure we're all fine. You know what I mean?
So that's what that poem means to
Yeah.
you, brother.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think it's beautiful because, especially for anyone who is struggling with things, it always kind of
There's
works
always
out,
a way out.
and there's always a way out, man. A poem like that, it's like for someone who maybe is younger, you know, if there is a young lad listening to this or a young lady, like you are going to be older one day and you're going to be able to reflect back on these things and like you will come out of it, and
Mhm.
it's just such a hard thing to know in the moment because
Oh,
it feels
it's
so
so hard.
real. But I think, mate, that was beautiful. Is there anything else you'd like to say before concluding the podcast?
No, I just think that if you are struggling in life, it will get better. I promise you. There was a lad that reached out to me on TikTok, and he was going through a breakup and other things like that he was stressing about. And I've just lost my granddad this past week, just gone. So I did a post on Instagram, and I did a poem on TikTok, and I hadn't heard from that lad that I helped. I helped him about 2.5, 3 months ago, and I got a message off him. He was like, "Oh, I hope you're all alright. I just want to know that you've saved me. Thank you. Without you, I wouldn't have got through the tunnel. I've never met this guy. Don't know. I don't know much about him. We had a few chats about personal things, but I just thought like life. If you help someone, it's gonna come back around, and you're gonna get helped at some point. So I think putting kindness out there is one of the most important aspects of life. Because if I'm kind to you, and you're kind to someone else, it's a domino effect, and then we're all gonna be kind. So that's something I'd like to conclude with, to be fair.
I don't think you said a bad word today, man. It's been really nice to have you on and discuss a topic like this, and I don't think you could have said anything better, man. And the poems are beautiful, and how open you've been. I can't thank you enough for coming on and speaking about that. I hope this has been great for the listeners to listen to. And I think something I'll just quickly add on to that is the phrase "go on."
Yeah.
And I think I heard it from Simon Sinek on Diary of a CEO, but that's irrelevant. The main thing is, if you are struggling, or like you said when you were talking to your mate, like all he did was listen. Sometimes just listen to someone, because that's the other side of it. When someone's opening up to you, what do? Just listen.
If you don't feel like you're being listened to, you're not going to want to talk. So just be that even if someone opens up to you, you might feel like you want to talk to them. Let them vent it all out first. Don't be like, "Oh, but because then they're like, oh."
People don't need solutions all the time as well.
Yeah, they don't need your advice. Sometimes they just want to lay it out. If they come to you like, "Oh, what do you think about this?" Then yeah, obviously give your opinion, but don't be the one to jump in halfway through them trying to be vulnerable, because then that's going to just put their barriers back up, and they're just not going to want to be vulnerable, and especially not vulnerable with you. Yeah.
That was a good episode, man. Thank you very much, Harrison,
Thank
for
you.
coming on. Go see Adventures with Galley on TikTok.
Thank
It's
you.
amazing. You see the poems, you'll see all the walks, but bro,
Yeah.
that was really good, man.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
that. Thank you for coming on.
Yes.